We just have to get it to record. There we go. All right, we're on.
All right, you ready?
We believe so.
Good evening, everybody, for the November Town of Ocean Ridge Town Meeting. Karen, would you care to take the roll, please?
Commissioner Lucibella.
Present.
Commissioner Osgo.
Present.
Vice Mayor Allison.
Present.
And Mayor Pugh.
Here.
I didn't know if Commissioner Bonfiglio was going to be here or not. I'm sorry.
Well,
Maybe he's just running a couple
unless
minutes
he's playing
late. Maybe he had to
Halloween, yeah.
park somewhere.
I noticed that today, too. All right, so
Small town.
he's not here, he's not here. Is he in the back?
He's here.
He's just walking in.
There he is.
Didn't know where to park.
That was a problem, yes.
Okay.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
So, Commissioner Bonfiglio?
Commissioner Bonfiglio just arrived, so
Here.
everybody's here.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we begin, I'd like to introduce our new town manager, Mr. Jamie Titcomb, everybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Mayor.
You're very welcome. All right, moving on. You see the agenda before you. Are there any changes, deletions, or modifications?
Modification.
Okay?
Karen, explanation, page 2, second paragraph.
Which minutes?
Yeah,
Which minutes?
the commission meeting,
Okay.
minutes from October 5. Page 2, second paragraph, starting with Jerry Gray. Down on the third line, it ends with, and suggested that the commission revisit the TOP. What am I missing there?
Oh, I'm sorry. The topic.
Okay, the topic.
That's a typo, and then also on the front page, it says budget meeting and regular town commission meeting. The budget should just, I'm going to be removing the budget from that portion of it.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody make a motion, please?
I make a motion. Accept the
About
minutes.
what?
Oh, right, oh, darn. To accept the minutes for the town meeting held October 5th, 2015,
And the agenda?
and the agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, announcements and proclamations. The administrative offices will be closed on Wednesday, November 11th, Veterans Day, and Thursday, November 26th, and Friday, November 27th for Thanksgiving Day. Amazing. The annual holiday celebration has been scheduled for Friday, December 4th, 2015, from 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. We'll be serving light snacks and beverages, and children can expect a visit from Santa and some added fun. Okay, right now we're going to hear public comment. Anything you wish to speak about? Come on up, speak about it. Anything that's on the agenda, anything's on the agenda, if you want to wait till then to speak about it, you can wait until then. But once you speak on it, that's the only time you can speak on it. So, hearing that,
Try to tell Dawn that.
Hi, I'm Nancy Flynn, and in my 3 minutes, I'd just like to bring you up to date on the fact that
ma'am, you gotta speak to the microphone and
Certainly.
name and address for the record, because we didn't hear you.
Okay, name and address, Nancy Flynn,
Yes, ma'am.
address Villas of Ocean Ridge, 5900 Old Ocean Boulevard.
Thank you.
Addressing the commission and addressing the audience, I'm here today just to say that with the permission of the past administration and the current city manager, we'd like to do a repeat of the art show for the month of March that we did last year, this year, in 15, in 16. We felt that it was well received by the town and well received by the participating artists. To get ready to do that, those that were selected as winners, first, second, third, and 3 honorable mentions, will display artwork during the months of November, December, January in City Hall, and that artwork will be available for sale. And we'll use that as a promotion, as a pre-event for the show that'll take place during the month of March. That is really all. Everybody has been terrific in City Hall in promoting the effort together with my team. This, again, will be in conjunction with the Delray Art League and other artist organizations along the coast. It'll again be referred to as the Ocean Ridge Coastal Artists, and I look forward to, again, being the show director.
Do you have a date for that yet?
Yes, the entire month of March.
The entire month, great.
I have a question, Nancy. You said you wanted to put the artwork up.
Get your microphone.
You want to put the artwork up starting in November?
That is only the artwork, 3 pieces for each of the 6 winners of the first show, meaning that occurred in March 2015.
Okay, that just clarifies. Thank you.
Nancy, you also wanted to mention about the donation portion?
At this point, we made a decision, we collectively, the city and the show promoters, that 30% of the sale of the art would go to Ocean Ridge. And that,
Thank you.
now, it was that 2 pieces of art were sold, and it wound up being about $400+. The artists felt that that was a high number, based on what they generally give at other shows. They've asked that it be 20% instead of 30%,
Is that what it usually is at shows?
roughly,
Well,
roughly.
No,
And that's really up to your decision.
no, it isn't.
I think it's free money. I'll take
Right.
20%.
20% is fine.
Yeah.
Yes?
That's fine.
All right, that, they will be very happy.
Well,
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you for organizing that. Next person.
Good evening, Jim Wiggy, 19 Sable Island. Just another update finally on the koi pond. As you all can see, the koi pond looks fantastic. It's probably the best it ever has looked. It was really a good idea to get this gentleman that I found on the internet. He did a phenomenal job. In fact, it's so pristine, they had babies a week or so ago. But thanks to a number of board members who've made sizable contributions, and a number of our residents, some are sitting here this evening, I want to thank all of you. Not that we can't continue to have donations. What I might have this fellow do, he was phenomenal. The stuff that he did, he tore those machines apart and everything. And there may be a limited life on our pump and filter, by the way, which I mentioned last month. But at any rate, he may come in every 3 or 4 months just to check all the status of the pond itself, and I'll do the intermediate work between that. But it looks phenomenal. We're not turning away donations, so please be more than generous if you want us to keep it this way. But again, thanks to everybody who has made a donation.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Regan.
you, Jim.
Next person.
Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. I want to comment on the rule real briefly. It means you can talk about 2 subjects during your 3 minutes, right? You're not limited to just one subject.
But only one time.
But I want
one
to point out that once I brought up an issue that was the Public Safety Department issue, and you told me I should have brought it up at the first public opportunity. So as long as the rules, everyone's clear on the rules, we're okay. And I
Well,
think
let me just interrupt you there for a second. The reports, there are no comments on reports. Public comment, if you want to comment on the report of one of the police chief or the town manager, you would do that at public comment, not during the report.
Okay, so that's another part of the rule that maybe is not, everyone's not aware of.
What we're going to do is we're actually going to change it on the front of the town.
Yeah,
on
so there was a
the agenda.
discussion of it, so that, I mean,
Yes.
you have a right to make the rules, there's no question about that.
Well, it should be on there. In fact, it was a suggestion by our new town manager.
Yeah,
So-
and I appreciate the fact that you don't want more than one discussion from the same person on the same topic. So I'm going to bring up a topic that may have occurred last month, I wasn't here. and it has to do with beach access. There is discussion, at least to me, maybe they pick on me, I don't know, regarding the long-term scheme of the town in attempting to close some of the streets that go to Old Ocean, that the next step will be try to close the beach access. Now, I will not act like a lawyer. I mean, you have a lawyer and you have other people who can research this matter, but Chapter 161 protects beach access forever and ever. And after 1987, even if it transverses a private piece of property to the shoreline, that is protected in that statute. So whatever, there's a scheme that's going on there, people need to rethink it, because that's not going to happen. It's known as prescriptive access. And you have the one at the end of Tropical, which is privately owned, by the way, it's not public. And you have the one that's known as the 152, but actually is the 153 property, which is also used by people who have nothing to do with that area. They come from Briny Breezes, they come from Boynton Beach. So you have some issues about access that you need to open your mind about. Whatever happens in Boynton, people are going to come here and use by walking, they're going to use the access. All right?
Thank you. Next person. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Don Palaria. I live at 5530 North Ocean Boulevard in Crown Colony. And the issue that I want to discuss this evening is the proposed wastewater treatment line down A1A that's been offered to us by Boynton Beach. I've been dealing with Ken on this subject, and I just thought I'd enlighten you on our perspective. Number one, basically, just by way of background, I'm a registered professional engineer in Massachusetts in environmental engineering, and I have 60 years' experience in wastewater treatment. And at the present time, I have spent 22 years working for $0 running the wastewater treatment plant that services 290 condo units down the south end of town. The plant status at the moment, and I think this is important, is extremely good. It's one of the best little wastewater treatment plants in Florida, and that's certified by the DEP. We just recently renewed two 5-year permits, so we're all set with respect to the treatment of waste. However, Ken came to me about a year ago and said that an offer was made by Boynton Beach to install a line, a wastewater treatment plant down A1A from Woolbright down to Briny, where they would tie into the Briny system and transport the waste across the line in the Intracoastal, which is owned by Boynton Beach. And incidentally, it has plenty of capacity. Let me just back up for a minute. Over the past 1.5 years, I and my board, condo only, dealt with Boynton Beach on the feasibility of installing a line across the Intracoastal, which would just serve the condo units and perhaps Ocean Ridge Yacht Club if they wanted to join in. The cost of that was $500,000 to $600,000. They would not pick up any of the cost. If we paid the $500,000 to $600,000, then we would still pay $40 a month for them to treat the waste, which is what we're paying now to run the wastewater treatment plant. $40 a month, $680 a year, which is very, very reasonable for wastewater treatment. My board unanimously didn't want to go along with that. I mean, why should we pay $500,000 plus and then still pay $40 on top of that when we've got a beautiful little plant running? Ken called me about a year ago and said that the Boynton Beach people, who are anxious to accept our waste because it's money in their pocket, proposed that we put a line down A1A. And Ken said, would you be interested? Well, I'm always interested in getting into the 21st century. I mean, eventually this town is going to have to put lines in somewhere, so for that reason alone, I was interested. We were developing, my initial impressions, and Ken can talk on this, is that we were going to get some cost figures based on how many other participants would be willing to get into the program. But I would estimate conservatively, and no costs were ever generated, but I'm guessing anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000 just to put the line in and connect to the Briny Breeze thing. When I ran that by my board, the same reaction. Why should we pay $500,000 plus and still pay Boynton Beach $40 a month? So that's basically my story. We're happy with our waste treatment plant, although I served on the Infrastructure Utilities Committee in 1999 when the issue of a wastewater, getting a sewer line in and getting into the next century. And that was dismissed as being too costly. But I firmly believe that eventually the DEP is going to come down on everybody and mandate that it be done. Here's an opportunity to put a line in from Woolbright to connect into Briny and use their line across there at basically minimal cost. So that's why I'm interested in it. I would like to leave you with several thoughts. Septic systems in this town are a major source of polluting the aquifer. This aquifer is a mess. I can tell you that. The town should develop a long-range plan for a sewer line down A1A and along the entire length of the town. And I would like to say it's really impossible for me, and I appreciate Ken's efforts, to sell a $500,000 deal when we're still going to pay $40 a month as long as we have that wastewater treatment plant. And that wastewater treatment plant is going to be around for a long time. It's a nice little facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, next person.
Good evening. My name is Mark Lacko. I live at 28 Exora Way. I'm not sure if I'm out of sequence, but this is with regards to the potential road closure on Mid-Lane Drive.
If you want to talk about it now, you can, or you can wait until it actually comes up.
Okay, I'll talk about it.
Whichever you want to do.
I can wait. I just want to make sure I didn't miss it.
No, that's, you're not going to miss it. Just hang around for a little bit. Anyone else? All right. Moving on, public hearing. Karen?
Well, Mayor, actually, I'll take this.
Ken?
We continue to work with the property owners, representatives, engineers. We had a meeting this past month with our engineer, town manager, and Karen and myself. There are still some, what's the right word? Geometric things that they're trying to work out. So what we would ask is that this be continued again to the December 7th meeting at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Not postponed, continued.
Number 7. Right, thank you, Ken.
We need a motion.
Motion to continue it until next month.
I'll make a motion, we continue the public hearing on the Everlast property until the next commission meeting.
I second.
Motion and second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ken. Okay, moving on to reports. Jamie.
Thank you, Mayor. First, if I can take personal privilege to thank you all for your faith and confidence in me and bringing me forward here to be your town manager in the town of Ocean Ridge. I'm very excited to be here. I'd like to thank my predecessor, Ken Skank, who's here in the audience tonight, who was very generous with his time and information this past week and overlapping with me and showing me, driving me around the town and showing me where all the skeletons are buried and where all the drainage projects are functioning well or not, and you know, all the nuances of the town. The police chief, the clerk, the entire staff has been wonderful in my arrival here, and I look forward to doing great things with you all over time, and hope I wow you and don't let you down in the process. Mr. Skank is here tonight, and if it's the pleasure of the commission, I would love to give him the opportunity to present some of the details on what his last report here in the backup for you, because he can elaborate a little bit more on some of these than I can, being brand new to many of these issues. But I would like to assure you that I'm becoming a very quick study on these issues and getting to know a lot of the projects and residents by name in my first week, and will continue where he has left off.
You want to do that, Ken? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
There's really only 2 new items on here. Most of the rest of us have been on here for quite a while. One, to clarify something that Dom talked about Boynton Beach did agree to accept the wastewater. They also said they could possibly front the money to put into lines. However, they were going to bill back to the residents the cost of that. They weren't going to pay for it themselves. And that's where I think some of the confusion is. And obviously, the residents don't want to pay for that at this point. Maybe somewhere down the road it'll work out. And the other was the fire district for the Barrier Islands. We met with Gulfstream Friday afternoon. They had submitted an RFP for a study to do a fire study from Highland Beach, Highland Beach to South Palm Beach, to see what it would cost to do our own system, our own fire treatment and response system. Since some of the Delray and Boynton at times have talked about going to the county, which would be a big increase in our present rates, we felt we at least need to have that number so we know where we are. They got 4 proposals. There was somebody there from each of the towns, and we evaluated the proposals. They ranged from $39,000 to $70,000. And so we ranked them, and Gulfstream is presently going through the confirmation of those rankings and so forth. 3 of the 4 firms, I think, could easily have done the study, so that'll be good. And that's the only new thing I have, and just, again, to thank you for a pleasurable 9 years here, and I appreciate all the help you guys gave me all the time, and it was a little different getting up this morning, thinking I didn't have to go to work, so. But I think I'll get used to it.
Did you buy golf gloves?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ken. Any questions?
Do you know that he's a consultant for the moment?
Yes. Okay. Ken?
Mayor, members of the commission, as part of the continuing changing of the guard in Ocean Ridge this year, I wanted to bring to you the discussion on how to move forward on selecting the new town attorney or law firm to represent the town. As you know, my last day will be our meeting of March 7th, and I will be retiring at that time. I think now is the time to begin the process, and you all need to kind of decide how you want to move forward with the process. There are a number of alternatives. First off, there is no legal requirement to go through a particular RFP process or anything like that when you're selecting counsel. You can pretty much do it however you'd like to do it. The options, one would be to do a formal request for proposal, putting together the RFP and all of the things that you're looking for, and put it out generally into the public domain through the League of Cities, the Florida Municipal Attorneys Association, that type of thing. I don't think you want lawyers from Punta Gorda or anywhere, but it would get to all of the local lawyers. Another approach would be for me and the town manager and any of you to identify law firms and attorneys locally, those who represent governments in Palm Beach County or surrounding counties. There are firms, for example, in Broward County that represent Palm Beach County entities because it's not that long a drive from Broward County, and send them simply a solicitation letter saying if we're going to be hiring a new law firm or attorney. If you're interested, send us a letter with your credentials, all of the essential information you need to know, how they would charge, whether they would do it. Some would maybe want to do a retainer like we did when I was with Louis Longman. Some may want just a flat rate. Some may want to do it by the hour. Then you'd need to know how much by the hour. In either approach, and of course, if if you all have a lawyer or law firm today that you like, you can just select them. The approach I would suggest is that I prepare a letter for the town manager's signature, send it to the attorneys and law firms that do this kind of work in this area, ask them to respond by the end of the month, be able to get to you a week before the December 7th meeting all of the responses that we've gotten, And then at the December 7th meeting, you can shortlist it in terms of who you'd like to perhaps come and make a presentation. One option I have not presented is the one that we've been working under this past year, and that's an in-house attorney. I truly don't believe that the town needs an in-house attorney. I mean, it actually worked out very well this year, both because my circumstances made it work for me and I could do it within the budget for you. And this has been a very busy year. I think there's been some benefit to the town. But generally speaking, I don't think you really need an in-house attorney. And besides, you have a lot of different types of issues that come up that a pure in-house municipal attorney would not always be able to handle. I mean, you have labor negotiations, employment law, a large number of things that I think you want to have somebody from the outside who does this kind of work and has support in doing it. Now, that doesn't mean that a sole practitioner would not work for you. There are sole practitioners who have a broad range of experience and knowledge in local government and relationships with law firms that do the kind of work, the expert type of work that you would need. The issue you would look at there is how much is the attorney alone charging you, and will it all fit within the budget? You have a budget that has been pretty steady for basically the 17 years that I've been here. For the manager and those who don't know how it came about from the beginning, we came to an agreement on a monthly retainer and also a blended hourly rate for work that went beyond what was covered by the monthly retainer. I think we started in 1999 or 2000 at $5,000 a month, or a month, I'm sorry. And then at the end of the year, as we went into budget, I would review the work that was put in. We kept our billable hours, review the work, and if the $5,000 figure was way too high, we would reduce it. If it was way too low, we would increase it. And over the years, it has gone anywhere from $5,000 to $7,500, back down again to $6,000, so that for budgeting purposes, we were always able to kind of maintain ourselves within the budget. We've had a few years where we've gone over, but that's usually because of some major projects, like the stormwater drainage thing and some major litigation. But for the most part, we've been able to do it in a manner in which you could set the budget. So I wanted to present that to you, get your direction as to how you'd like to proceed.
Well, I think the way it should proceed would be to, for you to compile a list that you would feel comfortable with. I myself would rather see a firm than a sole proprietor, because a firm would bring us more availability of different lawyers in different professional parts of the law. So the town would save money in that aspect rather than having to hire a different lawyer for each different thing that comes up. So I think that would be the way to go, have town manager and a town attorney compile a list of attorneys that they would recommend, or firms they would recommend to be the town attorney. What about you, Jim?
I agree.
I mean, you're an
Does it have to
attorney.
be the attorney? I think you should probably blend, do that, but also, put an advertisement in whatever periodical.
Speak up, Jim.
Put an advertisement in whatever periodical attorneys would read. I don't think we want anybody too far outside of Palm Beach County. Maybe Martin Broward, who would be familiar with, the ins and outs of Palm Beach County. But I like the idea of soliciting attorneys in the area that we know do this kind of work. I know Glenn Torsivia has got a firm that does this kind of work. Your old firm does this kind of work. A couple others do this kind of work. Maybe send a letter out to them saying we're looking for an attorney. Give us an idea of what you can do and your hourly rate. I think that's probably the best way to go, and then set up, once we get the letters of interest, like we did the town managers, you select 2 or 3 or 4 that we want to talk to. meet with them, and then winnow it down to, one finalist. I think we
Okay.
have plenty of time to do that.
I think that, I'm a little bit confused, Commissioner, and I'm not, by any means, I don't have any preconceived conclusions, but what I'm hearing from the town attorney is that he go out and seek actual proposals to have them in by the end of next month. Are
The
you
end of this
suggesting
month.
the same thing?
End of this month. I think that's a good
End of
idea,
this
to
month,
get a
okay.
list of local law firms that, have multiple areas that people in the firm cover, like labor law, like contract negotiations,
Exactly.
things
Right,
like,
and to-
yeah.
And to get those actual proposals in by the end of this
Just
month.
try to get those proposals in the
Okay,
next,
I agree.
4 weeks,
Yeah.
do an
We're not
interview
asking
process.
For a very complicated proposal. I mean, we're asking for what they do and what it's going to cost.
Right.
Yeah.
And of course, references, the other municipalities that or governmental entities that they represent. I mean, two of the firms that do a lot of this work in the county already do work for the town. The Torcivia Law Firm, there are code enforcement special magistrate, Caldwell Passetti, represent the Board of Adjustment in those variance cases where there may be a challenge to the decision of the board on an as-needed basis.
Okay,
Let
so
me, I just want to ask one question. In addition to the legal thing, would you also put it into the League of Cities? I mean, is that something that would go in there, Jamie?
You certainly could, to cover your bases, so to speak, just make sure everybody's aware of it, but what you're going to get is a lot of proposals from all over the state, because these firms are all over that represent this kind of work. And
What's the time frame to put an ad in the League of Cities and get it out? I mean, is it gonna
Which
be
League of
within our
Cities,
timeframe?
which League of Cities are you talking about?
You're talking about the Florida League of Cities,
Yes.
like their datagram? It takes about 2 or 3 days to turn around an ad copy. You actually put a PDF on your own website, and then they'll link to that as a courtesy to the member.
That's how out to date I am. I figured it'd be about a month lag time between the time you contact
No,
them
it's
and
all
put something
digital
in.
at this
Okay.
point, and they require us to mount the ad on our own website, and then they'll link to it. Just be prepared for a lot of response from a broad region as a
But
result.
could we say that we didn't want it from a broad
Geographically
region?
limited,
Can't we
yeah.
say geographically that this is,
You'll still
must be-
receive them.
You're still gonna
You're
receive
gonna-
them.
everybody will
Still
get 'em.
receive
You'll get
them.
national firms responding, because some people just mine those datagrams for potential.
Well,
work, so-
you got,
pay attention?
well,
We
you are
should.
the town attorney, and you are the town manager. I would suspect that you'd be able to,
We can,
you can do this, let's not micromanage something, how would you go ahead and
absolutely, and we can.
compile the list,
can
get it
say,
to us,
Give us
and
the top
proposals,
5 or
and
something?
we'll go from there.
We've both been in
So are they
this.
just providing you a list, or are they also sending out the letter? So that way you
No,
have
no.
it for
I
next
think
month?
We'll send out a
what
letter.
we're saying is,
Yeah.
do what you need to do
Okay.
to bring us
Yeah.
proposals.
Right,
All right, so we have a consensus, you have,
right.
I'd say between Jamie and I, we've been in this long enough, we know just about everybody who would apply and who would be good for the town as well.
Good, all right, let us know.
Great.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 12. Discuss the workshop meeting date regarding the concept of converting Old Ocean Boulevard to one-way street.
Chief?
Chief, I went right past you.
Right past you.
That's because,
Such an easy
that's
guy
because
to
you're doing
ignore.
such a great job that I didn't think there was anything to report.
No
right?
tickets,
Monday
no
night
crime.
football.
So one crocodile tear started.
Yeah.
How could you?
Chief?
You have my monthly report from September. If you have any questions, I'm available to answer them as always, before, after, or during. Anything else I think that we would want to discuss, we'll probably come up later on. The monthly report is in the package. If there are any questions, feel free to ask them. I think everything else will be addressed later in the agenda.
Any questions for the chief? Thank you, chief. Sorry to have glossed over you so quickly. All right, now number 12. Okay, discuss the workshop meeting day regarding the concept of converting Old Ocean Boulevard to a one-way street and closing entrances to Old Ocean Boulevard and several streets. Now, this is a discuss the workshop meeting. It's not to discuss the actual closing of the streets or anything like that. So I was thinking about it, and being that the holidays are fast approaching, which is amazing. My wife wants to put the Christmas lights up already, but, would you want to postpone this until
Yes.
January
Yeah.
meeting, so that, because the workshop would be a place where, because we've been getting a lot of different ideas, so it would be a way that everybody would come and discuss the ideas of how to, or if to do this process. So, what do you think?
Wait until
I think we
January.
need to do it in January, maybe even into February, give people enough time to, arrange their schedule, because it's going to affect a lot of people one way or the other.
Hey, is that a play on words, one way or the other?
That's right. So I would suggest you get it past the Christmas, New Year holiday and into, and the January meeting or the February meeting.
All right, so why don't we put it on the agenda to make the date in the January meeting? Not discuss it, but to create the date for a workshop.
So at the January meeting, you'll discuss the actual date that you're going to have it.
Which would probably be
Yes.
the next month, February.
Into February.
By then, my file will be about that thick of all the ideas.
Why not set the meeting now for late January? I'm concerned that by the time we get into February, get too late in February and you're already losing residents.
If you put it on the December agenda, and I'll get with everybody beforehand to poll about the meeting date for January or February, and then you can say it at the December meeting, and it can go in the December newsletter and the January newsletter.
Sounds good.
Well, if it goes in the January newsletter, why don't we do that a month, why don't we do the polling this month?
Right.
And that way, they say we put it in December, and then we do it in January. Because I think I may agree with you about February, it might be getting too late.
Okay, so
All right, you
I'll
wanna do
poll
that?
everybody, and
And
we'll.
January's a good
actually-
month, there's 31 days in January. It's quite nice.
Every year.
All right, let's do
We'll
that.
announce the date at the December meeting.
Okay,
All right.
sound good?
Okay,
All
sounds
right.
good.
Excuse me, can I have public comment on this
Sure,
agenda item?
it is an agenda item.
It's just on the schedule and the rules, your rules. Terry Brown, Harbor Drive South. A lot of government entities will have workshop with allowing the audience to appear, but not discuss anything.
No.
They discuss it. So yours proposing a workshop that's going to be free form. You will discuss items and you allow the public to come up.
Well, that's to me what a workshop is. I mean, you
No,
would have
that's
well,
not the
maybe
case.
there's some, I mean, to me, a workshop would be to people to come up
I
and
just want to be
discuss
sure the rules are
ideas.
clear. You're going to allow
You
public
didn't let me
participation.
finish.
Okay.
You didn't let me finish, you just interrupted me halfway through.
No Terry Brown is rule number one.
Right. Well, I thought there was a guard out the door when I came in tonight, but just because I missed last month.
No, I think that the workshop would be a free discussion of ideas, everybody's ideas, or for the positive, negative, whichever.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to be sure.
Because it gives it time rather than, it gives us enough time to have a meeting just for that. Because a lot of times it takes a lot of time
Well,
to
that's the
flesh
purpose
out.
of-
This was contemplated as a public input workshop.
There you go.
And
He's
that's
got it.
what's
He
in
knows
the
what I'm talking
newsletter.
about.
All right, public input workshop.
And so do you need to do the current rules, I mean, I think Mr. Brown may be right. Maybe what we need is a bit more format fleshed out for that meeting, which we can present, you can present the format at the time. I mean, are you going to do it in a public comment first, issues and public comment? Are you going to do it in a just give and take discussion method?
Roundtable?
You know,
Well, see, I think,
Round
in
table, yeah.
in my opinion, it should be a round table and should be a input, output, and should have a time limit, so that
Okay.
basically by the end of two couple hours, I mean, everybody should have their voice heard and their idea heard, and maybe you can compile something to where
I
it
have no
works
problem
out.
with that, just as long as everybody is given a chance to give their input and doesn't feel that, and knows that there are set rules, you're not being capricious about.
Right. Well, we'll put a time limit and have a
Okay.
cookie timer or something.
Okay.
I'd be happy to work with the commission to create a cover sheet that would define the rules for the workshop engagement, so it's clear, just like we're talking about on
Sounds
these other
great.
matters.
I'll let you, you'll take care of that?
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Just as long, Christine Hassett, 29 Sabo, just as long as we're talking about procedural things, is the idea after the workshop, then the commission would, or the commission along with staff, decide upon what it is that they want to do and go forward, or it's just?
No, I think then
you're
you
just
would come
getting the
back to a
ball
regular
rolling?
meeting and then
Uh-huh.
discuss it at the meeting and then have it, then it would be an action item if there was going to be an action item, or maybe there was no status quo. There's
In
forward,
the future,
backward.
after the workshop.
Right, after the
In the
workshop,
future.
not during the workshop.
Absolutely.
Based upon the workshop.
My only suggestion is, and we've been doing this for many years in Delray, when things like this come up and they do go to a workshop situation, particularly if they have to do with traffic and they have to do with safety, I think it always gives the city a good cover and the commission a good cover to do a professional traffic study after, if the workshop, goes forward and you decide to actually go forward and looking and investigating, I would suggest that maybe a independent traffic study would be a wise decision.
That would be something to bring up at the workshop. Okay, thank you. Any other comment on that? All right, moving on. Okay, approve approximately $2,000 expenditure for appropriate signage and stop posts to temporarily close Mid-Lane Road at Woolbright Road on a trial basis. Okay. Public comment.
Good evening.
Good
Name's
evening.
Mark Lacco. I live on 28 Exora Way. Most of the residents are still not in town, but I have a few concerns, and me personally and our family, we don't agree with closing that entrance. And I'll give you a couple points. Hopefully I can cover it in 3 minutes. One of the first things is Ridge Boulevard, which would be now the main entrance into the development. It's got a large landscape median, so if you have a landscape truck or a lawn service or or delivery or anything of that sort, all of a sudden there's no way to get in or get out. So you're either stuck coming in or stuck coming out. There would have to obviously be something done with that median, because if you're pulling in from A1A and people can't figure out which way is going in and which way is going out, they may think the left is the way or maybe the right. You can't really tell. And pretty much everybody gets their lawn and maintenance done professionally, so it's not a matter of, there's no other place to park, if that makes sense. So it's typical for the lane to be blocked, and the only way to get out is through Ridge Boulevard. Also, mid-lane. Also, Ridge Boulevard is also pretty tight. It doesn't allow for large trucks because of the landscaping that's there in that particular entrance. So for construction work or for large deliveries or anything of that sort, you're going to have serious damage to the properties that are on Ridge Boulevard because you just can't fit it. I think we measured it. It's not the way the landscape is. There are some points where it's less than 10 feet or just about 10 feet wide, and some of the deliveries are going to have trucks that are much bigger. It's inconvenient. I assume the 11 homes that are on that street are probably not all about it either, but you can ask them. I think something that we should probably look into is the people that actually live in that neighborhood. Ask them. Most of the people on my street didn't even know this was going on, and if we're going to do it, let's do it where, I don't know, maybe send out a letter saying, would you like this, would you not like this, so that way it kind of gives you a feedback. Maybe this is just my personal opinion, but there might be people that might not really like this in this particular situation. Also, if you're leaving or coming in, if you have to go through A1A, you're dealing with pedestrian traffic, with bicycle traffic, the car traffic. Cars are going much faster, whereas if you're taking the mid lane, you have a traffic light right there. It's very easy coming in and out. I love the fact that we have an entrance to Woolbright right there. Currently, the neighborhood has minimal outside traffic coming in other than the construction service work, and those would still be coming in anyway, so I don't think it really affects the traffic of outsiders coming in. I mean, there's nobody on the street almost ever. Ridge Boulevard is a common walk path that also provides pathway to the beach. There's no sidewalk there, and since the lanes are tight, when you got cars coming in and out, I don't know, I have a family, I'll be more cautious coming with that, having more traffic. And then finally, I think one of the issues that has been brought up is security. talking about people might have easy access in and out of that neighborhood from Woolbright, and I don't know if that's been the main reason why this was brought up. I have cameras on my house. I never see anyone coming in and out. And even in the places where you have a single entrance going into the neighborhood, there's still been burglaries. So I don't think that's really the main deterrent, if that makes sense. So maybe instead of closing that entrance, maybe focus on putting cameras on the bridge, doing tag license plates, checking those. I don't know if I brought up a bad issue, but.
A lot of issues
Okay,
there's a lot of issues bringing up that
I
we've discussed
didn't
before in
say
the last
anything
couple of
about
meetings.
that. But basically, that's, I think one of the things that would benefit would be if the people that it actually affects, if we polled those residences, and a lot of them are still not in town. On my street, I think there's about eight houses, and I think more than half aren't even here yet. So they'll be, I think, unpleasantly surprised when they're trying to get home and what's going on. So it's my
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Don Magruder, 9 Ridge Boulevard. I don't mean to take exception to your comments, but the truck and traffic, the lawn maintenance people, everything except the main cranes have come down Ridge Boulevard for the 30 years that I've lived on there. So there's not been a problem with major construction vehicles, moving vans, so on and so forth. They make it through there. They've been doing it for years. It's been fine. With the, I guess myself, we're kind of a house divided. I'm somewhat ambivalent to whether we close it off or we don't. I understand the gentleman's comments about getting in and out. I've talked to Gail. I understand her comments about coming in and out. But I really think that what we need to do is we need to pull the people in the neighborhood and go with the flow. If they want to close it off, that's fine by me. If you want to leave it open, that's fine by me. I just have a couple of suggestions. If you're going to close it off, I would like the sign to say, no outlet, residents only. Now, the reason I say no outlet, residents only, is because I don't want to live on a dead-end street. Something I just don't like about living in a dead-end street. If we're going to leave it open, if we're going to close it, or if we're going to leave it open, I think we need to have a sign that says something to the effect of no through traffic, residents only. Now, what that does in my mind is that, for those folks that can read, would basically say that it's a residential street, residential passage, because he's exactly right. He does walk his wife and his child and whatnot. They do walk up and down Ridge Boulevard to go to the beach. We don't get the other traffic that goes beach way. Most of the traffic that goes to the beach goes up through Adams to the end of the street, and they walk down our street. And the traffic that comes through there that is not residential traffic sometimes is pretty heavy, and it's very fast. They're going like 25 to 30 miles an hour up Ridge Boulevard, and they're cutting through to get to Mid-Lane. People from Adams, people from throughout the town that know that you can get through Ridge Boulevard and down Mid-Lane out to Woolbright, they use it all the time. A suggestion that I had was, depending on what the residents say, is let's block it off for 6 months and get everybody used to the fact that you can't get to Woolbright by coming down Ridge and going up Mid-Lane. And then after that, if the residents feel like it needs to be open, then open it back up, but then put the no-through traffic. By that time, we may have trained some people, at least the local residents, that that's not a through street to get in and out. So those are my 2 suggestions.
Thank you.
I have one other comment that my wife told me I should have brought up earlier. I'll bring it up now.
Oh, my goodness.
Thank you, Terry. On Exora.
Yeah.
The end of Exora, the property that's being under construction on the end of his street, is absolutely positively deplorable. It is the worst construction site I've seen. It's worse than the other one that I brought up the last meeting. And the problem is that there's 2 or 3 houses on Exora that are for sale. And so you have realtors bringing potential purchasers into those homes, which are million-dollar homes, and they're taking them down this to the cul-de-sac, and on the end, they're building this house, and it looks like, it looks bad. We have got to take that and either have them fence it off, or we've got to have them clean it up. You got to drive down there and take a look at it. It's the worst one I've ever seen, and it's not good for Ocean Ridge at all if you're bringing in new residents to show them what a wonderful town we live in, and they come down there and they make the U-turn in the cul-de-sac, and they see that mess. So,
Don,
Thank you.
it must be according to code, isn't it, Karen? You know what he's talking,
The blighting, are you talking the blighting?
I'm
not
talking about
sure
the
which
house he's talking about. The house under construction.
Well, yeah, the house under construction should definitely meet code, but as far
Yeah.
as the site and blighting, that would be something that the police department will go and look at, because there are 2 houses right at the end there that are under construction.
And one looks
there's one
great.
under construction, the other one has now been finished, but this
Yeah,
one is
and
right on the corner on the intercoastal, and it's a mess. There's construction material, there's trash, it's bad. So, they need to fix it.
Thank you.
Look at it.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry, ladies first.
Sorry. I'll be short.
That's got to be a rule violation.
Jerry Magruder, 9 Ridge Boulevard, Ocean Ridge, Florida. Whether I'm not in favor of this, closing off of Ridge Boulevard, there just seems to be always an issue within this little tiny housing community. Do people drive down that street like maniacs? Yes. Are there children that live in this little community? Unfortunately, there are little people that live in this community. Right at the end of Ridge Boulevard and A1A, there's a little granddaughter that lives in that. Unfortunately, the age of 3 and 4, these children are Houdinis. They know how to get out of locked-in areas like that. You always see her accidentally slipping through, always. Also, there are a lot of little dogs in this area. They always seem to be breaking loose. And whoever drives fast through this community are going to have nightmares for the rest of their life. They're either going to hit these little children or they're going to hit these little dogs, and they're going to have to live with this for the rest of their life. If you're not going to barricade the end of Midland, you have to at least do a traffic study for us. You can sit a cop at the end of the road all you want. I see them when they sit there. Half the time they're not watching the speed. You need to do it one of those traffic studies where you sit the thing there and check the speed. People are speeding. I had my husband sit in the garage all weekend, do his little chores, and he even came in and he said, Jerry, I can't believe how fast the cars are going by here. I finally believe you. And there are a lot of fast cars. I don't want to hear the story about garbage people can't go through. I don't want to hear the story about gardeners can't go through. They go through. They all make it through the area. But it is the traffic is horrendous, and they go by so fast you don't even see them. You hear them go fast. Even the delivery trucks go by so fast because they're, especially now during holiday season, they whiz by. But it is a very fast traffic area there. I've almost gotten clipped several times even pulling out of my driveway because they go so fast I don't even hear them that they almost clip my car as I pull out. But it's a bad area there. It's a high crime area there. It never was a high crime area until something got built behind my house. And it's all started. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening, John. Whoops. Good evening, John Adamovich, 5 Waterview Drive. I would say that with respect to our particular street, 5 Waterview, and up to the Intracoastal, everyone is back, including myself. We've been back for a couple of months. Mid-Lane, everyone is back. I think people are well aware of what the intention is. I would speak for myself, and I think for the most part with other people that live right in the immediate area. they would support the proposal, especially I'm focusing very much on the words temporarily close. It's a trial basis. I think, give something a shot. If you don't do it on a temporary basis and see how it works, we'll never really know. And so that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have 4 houses there.
Mark Kruger, 8 Ridge Boulevard. Good evening, everyone. I'm in favor for the temporary closure. My feeling personally is that it would assist in security, which is my main concern. Having had my house attempted to be broken into, I think the study would be, the potential closure would be great to kind of see what kind of transpires. I think it would be better for the police to be able to have only one access point if anything should have occurred in the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? My name's Meg Williams, and I'm on 11 Ridge Boulevard, part of the Ridge contingency here. And I don't really know what the answer is with mid-lane. It's a real inconvenience not to use that. I always use mid-lane. I never go out Ridge. But as I've voiced before, the security is an issue. In the past 2 years, the house next to us and the house across the street got broken into with big robberies. There's been 3 attempted robberies, which we did not report, which now we should report, including ourselves with damage to our property. We also, we installed cameras, and our neighbor across the street installed cameras, and I just don't think we should have to feel that we have to have cameras at our houses to be protected. The other concern is there are over 300 units going to be built at the Winn-Dixie site, so that's going to be more cut-through traffic. And since we do have cameras and we do watch what's going on, over 45 cars come through our neighborhood, and they blow through. And actually, Steve Presson, who's a realtor in our community, moved because the traffic was so bad for his kids. So I don't know what the answer is. I don't know if it's closing mid-lane. I don't know if it's putting in speed bumps. I love the camera idea, but I know I shouldn't bring that up. But I think if we ignore it, that is not the answer. That there's just got to be a solution that fits with everybody's wants and needs. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
Quick comment. Terry Brown on Harbor Drive South. I don't live in that neighborhood, but I know a lot of folks that do live there. And I previously had supported closing that down on a temporary basis, actually when 2 chiefs ago. It never happened. But Don's idea about the signs, I think you get a little bit of trouble if you say residents only. Those are public roads, and people can go down public roads. So that's a little bit of a problem. You could just say no outlet and restrict it that way.
Thank you.
Half of us in here are from that neighborhood. Noel Bork, 1 Exora Way, just moved there, next to Mark. Moved there for exactly why I think. Been in Delray all my life, lived at Delray Dunes, loved Ocean Ridge, always been here, always traveled through, have friends here. And so I moved here, brought my family, 14, 12-year-old daughter. We ride up to the beach, we ride up Ridge Way. First day I was there, 2 officers stopped by, got out, said hello, introduced themselves. I kind of feel since I've been in a closed community in Delray Dunes for so long, I was extremely happy to come here, have that kind of communication. The one thing I need to say to my friends back here is, we're neighbors. You know who we are if you're coming in and out of there. You know what cars we drive. You know what dogs we walk. Pay attention. Somebody's not right, you call somebody. You go out and ask. Neighborhood watch is not too far off from what we need to solve over there. I agree with a lot of the folks behind us, every one of them actually. The one thing that I think is that maybe we do have a little bit of traffic. My wife says, don't you dare close Midland. I say, always go up Ridgeland, you go right to the beach. House divided. Speed bumps, all of a sudden you have people go through there a couple of times a week. All of a sudden there's a speed bump. They stop going. You don't have to close the road. I think it's the residents' responsibility to kind of keep an eye on their neighborhood, crime watch, have lights,
Yes, unfortunately, we may need cameras in this time, in this day and age. I think eyes on the street, probably better in anything. We walk our dogs, we take our kids up to the beach, you pay attention. I'm not in favor of closing off the road at the moment. I think if we could slow down the traffic and keep it open, maybe speed bumps are an alternative. I think certainly testing is important. I certainly think that if the promenade idea goes by, and we have our workshop and the town says to do it, I think then, agreeing with the young lady here, that we have to test whether that road from Midland up to the beach is going to be a main thoroughfare. So I think at that time we take a look. I think I'm certainly in agreement with, I don't want to live in a dead-end street, but those little signs, they have them up there at the end of Old Ocean, that little road that curves up, no bikes. When I ride my bike and I see those two signs there that say no bikes to go down that road, I go back the other way. Maybe it says no residents or only residents or local traffic only. Maybe that helps, some speed bumps. Maybe we start slow, get an idea of where things are going. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Hearing Steve.
Steve Cos, 2 Osprey Court. I would just like to compliment the residents from Mid Lane, Exora, and Ridge for the civility and politeness that they're extending to each other. It's frankly wonderful, and I certainly hope that serves as a blueprint for the workshop. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, close public comment, take it back to commission. Thoughts?
Okay, I live in the neighborhood on Hibiscus. I'm betwixt and between. I think the comment about the trucks and the parking on Ridge is a problem. I know what I have had to do on occasion when I was going out Ridge Boulevard to A1A, when there's been a yard truck or a contractor's truck. I have to back into somebody's driveway and go around Mid-Lane because you don't want to go out the in-road on Ridge because people come around that corner too fast because it's one-way traffic. They're in on the north side, out on the south side. I think it's going to be a problem if we do close it off. In the very beginning, when this first came up, I said I would like to see all the neighbors get something in writing and have a chance to everybody express their opinion whether they want it closed or not. And that didn't happen. Yet, but I still would like to see that happen.
Well,
Yeah,
I live in the area too. Here's not a problem. I'm kind of I don't particularly care if it takes me 2 extra minutes to go down, my road to get to, Ocean Boulevard as opposed to back out through Mid Lane. Especially if my neighbors think that blocking off Mid Lane helps, for whatever reason, crime or slowing down traffic. I don't have a problem with that. The thing that bothers me a little bit is that what is the problem we're trying to address, and how do we measure success or failure at the end of this 6-month period or 12-month period? Are we trying to address crime? Then do we look at the crime statistics before and then the crime statistics after? Are we trying to address speed? And how do we know, if we successfully slowed people down or we didn't? Putting the $600 out, $800 for whatever for the temporary stuff, that's not really a problem. But if you start talking about permanently blocking this off, you're talking about several thousands of dollars and a lot of inconvenience to people. So I think what we need to do is figure out exactly what the problem is we're trying to solve, and then put a time limit on it and say, okay, this is how we measure the success of the program, this is how we measure the failure of the program, and if it was successful, we do it. If it failed, do we try something else? I kind of like the idea of, if we're trying to discourage speed, I kind of like the idea of the speed humps. if you're trying to discourage crime, I'm not sure that this is going to discourage crime because, you know, the chief got some statistics for us put together, and there's just as many burglaries and things in areas that don't have easy access to Woolbright, you know? So I'm not sure that you know, the blocking off is going to deter crime, or we're going to see crime decrease. But like I said, you know, so that's the two sides that I'm kind of trying to figure out is from a public point of view, we spend money. How do we figure out if whatever we do succeeded or failed? What's the time frame we want to do this, and what do we do? I mean, if it doesn't succeed.
Thank you. Can I? One thing I think should come to the attention, the statistical validity of the work that the chief has just done. We've just heard that several of the attempted robberies were never reported. Right, so then that negates to some extent the validity of the statistics because you didn't know about that. I've listened for 2 meetings now to concerned citizens, and the first thing that comes to my mind of why we're doing it is crime, because we've had people who have said, you know, we've either had robberies or we've had attempted robberies in a very small area. And so I think statistically it probably is significant that people coming over Woolbright with bad intentions have that access. Secondly, I would be very concerned, having small grandchildren, about the speed, because certainly the last thing in the world we would ever want is for a child or an animal to be hurt. So, you know, those are the 2 problems. I'd like to say that there's just kind of 2 things we have to try, because if we do nothing, then we're asking for trouble. So why don't we try something, all right? Now, if you all feel very strongly about having a majority, because you know you're never going to have everybody agreeing, then we can put out a letter to everybody, and we can find out if they're for it or against it, and we can suggest both a temporary closure of Mid-Lane and speed bumps. All right, those are the 2 things that we can do. So let's find out. I mean, I hear more positive than I hear negative in terms of the input we've had over the last 2 months for this temporary blockage of Mid-Lane, okay? But let's be more certain. I mean, we have a new town manager. He can go around. It's a small neighborhood. It's 3 blocks. Let him find out and come back to us and say, this is, you know, we've got 18 for and 7 against or whatever, and then let the commission say, move forward based upon that. But I think we need to move forward. I think this community is telling us that something needs to be done.
Yeah. Let me parallel Commissioner's comments here. I think that what I saw of the crime statistics that the chief put together demonstrated to me that there is more. There is a bigger issue there for a small neighborhood. And I think that common sense tells me that when, you know, not all criminals are stupid. You know, they have patterns. There's a reason why somebody living on Sable Island might be less likely to get hit than in that area, their home to be hit, because criminals do look for a couple ways out. And that's the part of town that has the clearest easy out. And it's because of this particular road. And so the residents come to us and ask us to solve a perceived or real problem there. And I think it is a real problem. And a solution is suggested, temporary solution. Now, the residents also need to understand a couple things. Nothing comes for free. I mean, there is nothing for free. You can't have your access out Mid-Lane, but nobody else gets it. I mean, that's just not going to happen. To Mr. Brown's point, I completely agree. You can't, it's a public roadway. You can't put in your public roadway as much as we'd like to. Private residents only or residents only. What about the people living on Adams? Don't they deserve a sign that says residents only? I mean, or any other street kind of deserves a sign that says residents only. They don't want traffic through their streets either, quote, outside traffic, but we can't do that because it's a public road. What we can do is we can close this. I think to the point of, there's a difference between seeking and encouraging public comment and taking polls. There's a very big difference there, and I think this commission does seek and encourage public comment, but the public also needs to be a little bit on their toes. We have mail lists. We now announce meetings in advance. We announce you can download agendas of meetings in advance, and you kind of, it used to be a civic responsibility to kind of know what was going on in your neighborhood, in your town. And so I would hope that the residents in that area are aware of what's being discussed. And so that brings us to the issue of, what do we do? If we take a poll, we'll do nothing. If we just back off on all this, we've accomplished nothing. Everything that's been suggested here is 100% reversible. 100% reversible. So I'd be in favor of closing that road, and let's monitor it for 6 or 8 months. See what the feel is. Then we can order a traffic. Then if you want a traffic study afterwards, because there's a great deal of divergence of opinion, we can order a traffic study. But why do that? Why go to that expense now when we can try something for a $600, close it, monitor the speed down there? Maybe we wind up putting speed bumps down there and on a lot of other roads in town. There's a lot of other, I think of Adams. You know, Adams, traffic isn't exactly crawling down Adams. Traffic isn't crawling down any of the east-west streets in this town. And so let's do the temporary closing, monitor it, see how traffic is anecdotally how traffic and the speed issue is, and we can talk about adding speed bumps at that time.
I agree. Well, the chief of police did a crime comparison by areas, and his areas were basically all the, lack for a better term, dead-end streets. Now, of those areas, just so you know the crime, the Hibiscus, Exora, Waterview, Mid-Lane Ridge had the most burglaries to motor vehicles. It had the burglaries attempted 1/3 of the total of all the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas that he studied. 1/3 happened in one area. So, if we're going to talk about, if this is going to, what we're doing here is $650. Okay? So $650, we put up some plastic barricades. We try for 6 or 8 months. You send out a letter saying, look, this is what we're going to do. And if the people of that area are so vociferously against it, then they can call up then and voice their opinion. And give them a month or 2 before you put it up. And if the opposition is nil or nothing, you're going to be putting it up anyway unless it becomes so loud that then you don't put it up, you change your mind. But to not do anything is what we've been doing for I've been sitting up here 13 years. Every single year, people from this neighborhood come up here and they say, what are you going to do about crime? What are you going to do about the speeding? And every single year we've done 0. Okay, it's nothing. So, for $650 and a letter to the residents, or basically on our website, not the residents, but on our website, like we normally do it, I think this is a good idea. I think it would at least give it a shot. I mean, governments seem to not do anything. Wouldn't you want us to at least try something? And if it inconveniences you for just the 6-month period, and then we can come back to this meeting, and you can say, you know what didn't really work, the chief can give us, obviously there's going to be more crime statistics for that 6 months, and he can keep an eye on what's going on, and at that point, he can let us know. Well, burglaries went down, attempted burglaries went down, whatever went down. But I know that if I live in that area, I wouldn't want to be one of those, let's see, 4 people that had attempted burglaries, not the ones that you just said you didn't report, or burglary, 3 people my motor vehicle got burgled into. So I disagree on the polling. I think it's something that you should at least put out there that you're going to do. And then if the comments are so negative, like, believe me, when people don't like something in this town, let's face it, they show up at the meeting and they voice their opinion. I mean, we've been here long enough to all know that. So it is my opinion that we should forge ahead for $650 to just give it a shot. I mean, whose car's next going to be burgled into, and they're going to come in here and say, you know what? Why didn't we do this?
Are we going to have signage too with that $650?
Yes.
Signage also?
Yeah,
It says on the agenda.
yeah. I'm going to
Or-
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
support that because I feel like it's season again. And if we wait, this is November. By the time we get to it, it's going to be February. And the worst crime is certainly going to be December and January, et cetera.
Well, what's the consensus on the verbiage on the sign?
I think it says it on the,
Residents only, or is it going to be no through?
well,
No through traffic or no outlet, not dead end.
well, wait.
That's
I think you gotta put no outlet.
right, no outlet.
Yeah.
No outlet.
We had put closed public comment. Don, you've been here so long, come on up.
Little special
Exception to the rule.
Nothing
Well,
stops you,
with
Terry.
deference
Why not?
to
Why not?
Mr. Lucibello and my friend Terry Brown, I don't, if it's a public road, how can you close it down, but then you can't put up a sign that says residents only? I'm confused.
Because we didn't close the road down. All we did was.
You're going to block it off.
We just blocked off, the road itself is still open.
So,
It's
no,
not, we didn't.
mid-lane, you're going to block off mid-lane at the end.
You're just blocking off an access to it. You're not blocking
Okay.
the road off.
All right.
So you haven't
So a
stopped the
decision,
public,
it's
not
a
closing
public
the road.
road, right?
It's still a public road.
So a decision is made, we're going to block off a public road. But then we can't put up a sign that says no outlet, residents only. And
You can say no
You can
outlet.
put
No
out.
outlet.
You can say no
you can put
outlet.
up the no outlet.
Yeah.
But the reason Mr. Brown is saying residents only is because he comes there every weekend, every day, and rides his darn bike through the neighborhood. And that's his problem. He's not, wouldn't be a resident. But I think, I don't understand why you can't say residents only.
Well, one thing let's, hold on, okay. The sign, we're trying to go the less expensive route right now.
Sure.
So we're trying to keep everything in a very low cost. Now, if it does work, at that point, I think then the discussion on, are we putting royal palm trees or coconut palms, or we're putting no residents only, or what we're doing would be the discussion at that time. But
All
right
I'm trying
now,
to do is
a very
people-
simple,
Right.
one way in, one way out, no outlet, plastic barriers, and we're done with it for 6 months.
Yeah, okay, I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying that the signage doesn't really block people from coming in anyway. It's kind of like a discouragement. I mean, we got no U-turns. I went out this weekend and came right past the no U-turn sign, made a U-turn right in front of my house and kept on going, you know,
All right,
so they don't read them.
And Don, you get no
Thanks.
argument from me, if I can just respond, you get no argument from me that it would be effective. My argument is that, why would you tell Mr. Brown that he can't have one of those on his street? Or the people on, I mean, why don't, there isn't a street in this town that the residents wouldn't want to have a sign that says residents only.
We're getting into a debate now.
How if we just say, except for Mr. Brown?
That's a
on the side?
privately owned street. That's not a town street. That's a privately owned street.
I know you got a sign at the end of your safety.
We own the property. I mean, it's no different than a condo that owns their parking lot. I mean, they can, and so what I'm saying, that's why I specifically didn't bring up Beachway Drive. I brought up Adams, because we see the traffic that goes down Adams. And there's a lot of it, okay? The folks on Adams would love to have a sign that says residents only. And so, deferring back to the mayor, I think he's right. This is a discussion that we can flesh out over time. But let's move it forward somewhat. Are you looking for a motion?
We're looking for a motion, but I'd like to just to say one thing. I think the $2,000 expenditures is a little high. I mean, you have on here, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, Ken, because of it was your
That would have been the highest scenario.
Right, it says, based on the cost, the project would cost less than $650.
This is for speed humps,
That's
I
just for
think.
the
Yeah.
posts and the signage.
2,000 adds the barriers and the speed humps.
Well, we don't want to do the speed bumps, yeah, we're not doing the speed humps. We're just doing plastic barriers up and some signs. That's it.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenarios.
Yeah, the spends for the speed humps, we're not doing the speed humps, we're not need to spend $2,000. So at this point, $650 should cover the cost, plastic barrier and the signs going in and out, correct?
Why aren't we doing the speed bumps?
Because I think that you're getting in the cost that you don't know what the efficacy of the project is going to be.
I agree.
So,
You're also, if I may add, if you're trying to solve two problems at once, it'll be harder to measure which metric is working. And it sounds like the speed and the crime, the access issues are two different measurements that you're trying to follow up on. I would just suggest on the sign piece, you don't have to use the word residence. You say no outlet, local traffic only.
Yes.
You never mention the residents.
Well, you can't, can you? How can you on a public road say, you
Look,
can't come down here?
like I said, whatever the least expense is going to be is which way you want to go, because this is temporary. I don't want to do wooden signs at this point. We're doing metal signs like Ken had suggested, and we're doing this on a temporary basis to see if it works. Now, if it works, at that point, we can discuss any signage you want to put on there. The wooden signs, whatever you want to do. Like I said, the trees, whatever. But at this point, let's just stick with the plan. The plan was plastic and metal signs for less than $650. So that's my suggestion. And then also, we should put this in all the correspondence the town does, so everybody knows what's going to happen at a certain time. Now, at what point would you want to do this, and at what point?
To take a vote.
I mean, so Chief, what would you start? Do you think have it up by December 1st?
I think we need to give a minimum 30 days notice
Okay.
before we block anything off. I think that that's reasonable. And I
December
think-
2nd then.
I think that at that point in time, we could then install the signs and the barricades. We may want to put the signs up early. We may want to put the signs up day after tomorrow if we can get them, and then close the road in 30 days. That might be a way of going about it, so that that's a form of notice. And I think you'll receive some feedback on that at that point in time also.
Okay, great. Okay, so hearing that, would someone like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll give you a motion. I'll make a motion that we not micromanage the staff, that we authorize the $650 to close and notice Mid-Lane, that we have the staff simply proceed with that. To put up the signs first is a great idea, though it's not part of the motion. However, they choose to do it, and to notice on the town website and in the town newsletters.
It's a long motion.
Yeah. I need it all in there, right?
Yeah, you need it all in
You
there.
have to have it all in there,
How about
otherwise
this?
we're going to be back on this next month because we didn't do
No.
part of it.
How about this? And I would suggest you raise the $650
Thank
to
you.
$750 to $750.
Fine.
And amend the motion to authorize the town manager to spend up to $750 to barricade the end of Mid-Lane at Woolbright pursuant to the memorandum, item number 13 today, and notify the residents, give them at least 30 days' notice of the intent to place barricades at that point.
Yeah, what he said, second that.
Always good to have an
say
attorney
it.
commission.
So moved.
Right.
I'll
We
second
accept
it.
that?
This meeting being day one,
This meeting being day one, yes.
Right.
Okay, there's motion and second.
Okay.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question. Jim, when you said notify the residents, now are you talking about just on the website, the newsletter, or are you?
At the town manager's discretion, that's his job.
Okay.
It is.
Yes.
But I mean,
Well,
I would think it'd be just whatever publicly we put out to all the residents.
yeah, I mean, we have a website, we have the kiosks,
Right.
however else we do it. But that's up to the
an
town
email
manager.
blast, we can do an email blast.
An email blast?
There you go. All right, motion is, any other discussion? Hearing none?
Huh?
Excuse me? He- Excuse me.
That's right. We should probably
What?
reevaluate for, let me, I'm going to amend the motion to evaluate the efficacy of the project 6 months, which would be the June 2016 meeting. How's that?
I don't think it's necessary, because you're gonna have temporary barriers that we're gonna be seeing every day, but, okay, if you wanna,
Good, it
if you wanna
sounds
put
great.
state
That sounds
positive
good.
on it.
Well, we can notify the residents.
So you amended your
no.
motion, are you amending your second?
Will you accept
No,
my amendment?
I'll accept his amendment
All
in a
right.
second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on. Authorized budget amendment to the fiscal year 2014-15 budget. Karen?
This is based on a very preliminary review of the final expenditures for fiscal year 14-15. It appears that there'll be two departments that will be over budget. The inspection department, which is where we do all of our building and zoning review, had an original total budget of $122,500. We already did one budget amendment in that department for the $26,000 for the demolition of 110 Bonita Drive, but additional funding will need to be moved into that department to cover the expenditures that we had for hybrid. We did end up getting $259,731 in permit revenue, which means that there's going to be a lot more inspections, and that's why the costs are over in the budget department, and a lot of these inspections are actually even going to occur in this current fiscal year. But anyway, we're proposing $7,000 to be taken from the contingency account and moved into that department. And then also, the town commission budget was over by $565. We believe it'll be over by $565. And that's because we had an increase in the D&O insurance in June, which was $2,000 more than what we had anticipated. So we are proposing to have $1,000 transferred into that department also. And the Florida State statute allows us 60 days after a budget year ends to make these transfers. So we're proposing that you authorize those transfers, and then also the prior contingency account expenditures that you approved for the carpet in the chamber, which will be installed on November 12th and 13th, and also the community room and the dispatch center. And then for the new Mingase equipment that we're getting, that will just be budget amendments that I'm going to transfer those monies out of contingency that you already did. You can do a motion.
Okay, you may make a motion for this?
Okay, I move that we adopt the budget amendment to fiscal year 2014-2015 pursuant to our agenda item memo number 14, November 2, 2015.
I second.
Motion is second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, Karen, I'd like to do the first reading of the ordinances, please.
This is an ordinance that was prepared after the Planning and Zoning met on August 10th, and the report was given to the Town Commission. This is ordinance 612, an ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending Article 4, Division 1, Section 66-117 of the Code of Ordinances to make the landscape provisions of Division 1 parking area landscape applicable to single-family and duplex dwelling units, providing for codification, for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, for severability, and also for an effective date, and this would be first reading.
Okay.
I have a couple of questions.
Anybody make a motion?
I move that we adopt ordinance number 612 on our first reading.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion is second. Public comment?
I have a question. One, it doesn't say on here who the regulatory agency is that determines whether the plan should be allowed or not. Also, it doesn't say what some definition of plants or where somebody can find out what plants.
That's in the code already.
It's in the code already.
This is just
It's in the
amending.
code already?
Yes.
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 Wasn't on this.
No.
No,
The-
this is only amending
but-
that
Yeah,
section.
let me clarify. The code already basically prevents the planting of invasive species and identifies specifically what those species are and how to determine that. This provision, for some reason, having only to do with the parking area, exempted out single-family and duplex. And so now we're removing that exemption. So wherever you plant in the town now, you have to follow the provisions in the other section of the code that talk about invasive species.
Very good.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 16, Karen?
The next one is ordinance 613, and this also came about as, from a meeting with the Planning and Zoning on August 10th, and they had suggested requirements for a partial demolition permits to prevent blighting. And this is an ordinance of the Town of Ocean Ridge, Florida, amending Section 1 through 3 of the definitions of the Code of Ordinances to include partial demolitions of improvements, and further amending Article 3, Technical Codes and Other Construction Standards, Division 2, Administration and Enforcement, Section 67-51, Permit Required, to include requirements relative to partial demolition permits and the prevention of blight, providing for codification, for severability, for ordinances in conflict, repealing, and also for an effective date, and this would also be for first reading.
Okay, go hear a motion.
I'll move that we adopt ordinance 613 on the first reading.
Second.
Is there a second? Any other discussion? Public comment? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Wait,
Motion-
wait,
what?
I have a question. Sorry, guys. Our applications for the town clerk, which I know you're going through what we have, we've not put a closing date on, and I think that needs to be taken care of, because last time, as the town manager, we had, applications that kept coming in late. So I don't know who's in charge of that, Karen and, right, Jamie?
I can comment on that. You currently have 11 applicants in hand. I believe you advertised in late June, early July, and then postponed waiting for the town manager process to complete. I've been speaking with staff, Karen and the attorney and everybody internally about this process. We have potentially a few other interested applicants that could be brought to the position as well. Would be my intention. I've already read all the applications that have come in. There are a few there worth reviewing, and there's a few others that might be of interest to the town. It's my intention to bring recommendations to this commission at your December meeting, because as I read your charter, you confirm any hire or fire in the town, and so I'd like to bring recommendations on that position to the December meeting, in which case you can give me your direction and we could bring somebody on board.
You don't need a closing, really.
Right.
All right.
It's in
It
his
says
hand.
until hired.
Okay. Because one of the things we were all concerned about is to have at least a month of overlap with Karen. And so if it comes to the December meeting, we should be able to do that, hopefully.
If I'm allowed to move progressively forward on it, I think I can bring you recommendations by the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.